So, as I mentioned before, this my guest this evening has been on my broadcast a couple of times, and I could not let the formal Black History Month go out without having him on. He has some new material, and this is the person of Stephen Silver. Just an inspiration, and we share something else in common. We share a birthday.
Birthday.
We share a birthday, so he has to be wonderful. So I have a few questions here, and then I'm going to let Stephen get into his poetry. So Stephen, introduce yourself, please.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Paulette. Greetings, family and friends, colleagues and clergy, sisters, brothers, and listening agents undercover, like Brother Malcolm used to say, everybody's here. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Stephen Silver, formerly known as the American Griot, now orator, poet, activist. That makes me an neuropatist. I am your brother, your fellow freedom fighter, doing my very best to fight for the full and complete liberation, the full and complete and unadulterated liberation, the freedom, the justice, the equality of the black man and black woman here in the hills and hills of North America. I am a proud product of the Civil Rights Movement. I am a proud product of the Black Muslim Movement. Both movements unequivocally and equally great. I am the synthesis of Martin's love and Malcolm's hate. And for those who don't know me, for those who don't have a clue, let me say right now that I'm pleased to meet you, and for all others who just don't know it, I am the one they call the poet.
All right. You say that you are a product of Christianity and Islam. I know you gave me some questions, but I'm going to skip around. So you said you're a product of Christianity
Yes.
and Islam.
Early on, I dreamed of becoming a pastor
Okay.
because God had given me a pastor's heart. But after a serious altercation I had with church leadership that would lead to my expulsion and subsequently mark the beginning of my battle and bout with depression. So over the years I grew increasingly disenchanted with Christianity. I felt that the church of my day was out of touch with what was outside the four walls of the church. So I gravitated towards what I saw was a more practical religion during the height of the crack epidemic. I saw how the black Muslims were snatching rifles and guns out the hands of dangerous drug dealers. They were actually doing something about the drug-infested communities across our nation.
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, now that's my type of religion.
Okay. All right. So the combination of Christianity and Islam shaped your philosophy
Yes.
and also life experience.
Yes.
You are a product of the District of Columbia?
Yes, I am. Washington, D.C.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your educational background.
Actually, I was born in Washington, D.C., native Washingtonian, Howard University graduate. I'm sorry I had to drop the H-bomb on you. I studied history, and I also studied theater. And that would lead me to expose me for the first time to the world of poetry.
Okay.
But it was that journey. I wanted to be an actor, so I relocated to Long Beach, California. But it was that journey, that trek, that night, that fateful night at what they called the Griot Cafe. that would forever change the trajectory of my life, set my feet on a path, and seal my fate as a poet. My love for oratory, poetry, and activism would lead me to coin the term Oropatist.
Spell that for the viewing audience.
Oropatist, O-R-A-P-O-T-I-S-T.
Okay.
Oropotist, orator, poet, and activist. My father tells me all the time, he says, Stephen, you're not just a poet. He says, you're an orator. In the last interview you asked me, Ms. Pollard, you said, did I ever think about becoming a poet when I was young? And I said, no, I had no idea that I would become a poet.
Mhm.
But I meant to say something, that I did want to be an orator.
Okay.
I remember when I was a young man, I was in junior high school, and the librarian took interest in me, female librarian.
Mhm.
She took interest in me, and she said, Stephen, would you like to be a part of an oratorical contest?
Okay.
And I said, what's an oratorical contest? She said,
Mhm.
that's a speech contest.
Okay.
So that's what an orator is. An orator is a public speaker.
Mhm.
So she said, write a speech, come back to me, and we'll go from there. So I walked away and did my studies and wrote the speech, gave it back to her, and she looked at it in amazement.
Mhm.
I said, why are you surprised? She said, because, what's the name of that speech? I said, it's called, Where Do We Go From Here?
Okay.
And she said, didn't Martin Luther King, did you get that from Martin Luther King? I said, no. He said, but you do know that Martin Luther King wrote a speech called, Where Do We Go From Here?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right. All right. You said that. Okay, we kind of answered that question. You never became a pastor or a Muslim minister. Well, I am of the belief, and I'm going to ask you. Just because someone doesn't have the formal title of minister or imam doesn't mean that they don't minister.
Yes.
Because being a minister really is a servant.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Excuse me. Excuse me. So with your poetry, you have been serving the people and encouraging people with your poetry. I remember the first time I met you, we were at Thurgood Marshall Center.
Yes.
Was it there or was it marching somewhere or for something?
It was the Thurgood Marshall
Okay.
Center. Yeah.
And I remember that you had that book, and I was so impressed with the cover of the book.
Of my book?
Yes.
Of
yes.
this book?
Yes.
Oh.
You can show the cover.
Yeah.
We can sell on this.
Okay, this right here. This
Yes.
is my book. It's called The Urban Diary.
Yeah, this is the Urban Diary.
But I wanted to show you that
Okay.
this is an autographed copy.
Oh, okay.
It says to Jeanette M. Pollard, I can't remember my handwriting, from your friend in the struggle, Stephen Silver, the poet.
All right. So these are poems, original poems by Stephen Silver, and you can get these on Amazon?
Not yet, but it will be up.
Okay.
It will be up soon.
Okay.
And I'll be back on your show when I'm ready to do that.
Oh, okay, but they can get them somewhere.
Call me.
Okay.
Get in contact with me.
Okay, so you're going to give your phone number out a little later,
I
right?
will, yeah.
Okay.
I can do that now.
Okay.
I can do that now. I'm Stephen Silver, Stephen with the V, Steven, Silver, Silver. You can contact me at 202-526-2971. Again, that's 202-526-2971, and I'll be obliged to do that for you.
Okay. All righty. So I'm going to hold on to my copy here. As we are, you mentioned Malcolm and Martin.
Yeah, can I say something about that?
Sure.
As an African American male, I'm a product of my time, navigating the racial unrest of the 60s and 70s to the crack epidemic of the massive incarcerations of the 80s and 90s, to the challenges facing a new millennium. My views were shaped by the prevailing ideas of the day, ideas that great minds have grappled with for centuries. The powerful, the least, freedom, justice, and equality, war, and peace.
Mhm.
As I said, I'm a product of two great religious thoughts, Christianity and Islam, both unequivocally and equally great. I am the synthesis of Martin's love and Malcolm's hate.
You said Malcolm's hate. Do you think Malcolm was actually hated?
Was he hated?
No, no. You said of Malcolm's hate. Do you mean that he hated or that people hated him?
I think that Malcolm X, he says in one of his speeches, he's given an analogy of the house Negro and the field Negro.
Mm-hmm.
He said the house Negro lived in the house with the slave master.
Mm-hmm.
The field Negro lived in a hut outside. They were in the masses.
Yes.
Malcolm X says they hated the master, but the house Negroes loved their master. They were close to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he said the field Negro hated their masters. And he says they were intelligent. They were whipped night and noon, day and night. They were given cast-off clothes. They were forced to work in bad weather. This is their condition. And he said they hated the slave master. And he said, I'm a field Negro.
Okay.
And he said, that implying that he hates the situation that he's in. And let me say something about that.
Sure.
Any true lover of God, when you know your history, you have to become indignant. They ask me, why am I so indignant?
Who asked you that?
People ask me that. Why are you so indignant? You become indignant when you learn your history. I'm a history major. I studied history. It causes you to become aware to race relations in America. How this present relationship is not a new relationship, but is an extension of the relationship that existed since the inception of our nation.
Mm-hmm.
And when we recognize that our history tells us where we are today, I believe that today is formed by yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and tomorrow is formed by today.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes our history critically important.
That's right.
It's critically important. I studied history. Malcolm said that history is probably one of the most important studies that you can study. Because my brother says, why do you always see things in terms of black and white? I said, I don't see things just in the term of black and white. I look at things in terms of history, how history is molded and made. And like I said, I like to see this picture of Jeanette Pollard, who's shaping and molding history. I want to applaud you and thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
If I haven't said it lately, let's give it up to Miss Pollard.
Oh, thank you, thank you. You know, I was just I believe that whatever lane that we are supposed to be in, that we're supposed to do what we can to fight against oppression, against racism, and I like what you said, and let me just ask you this: do you think that because we have failed to really educate our young people about our history, that is part of the reason why things are the way they are?
Well, I think it was Marcus Garvey who said that people who don't know their history is like a tree without roots. We're looking at crack epidemic in our neighborhoods. We're looking at young people, babies having babies.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at broken families.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at drug-infested communities. But we're looking at people, they're looking at the fruit, but you got to look at the root.
Yes.
You got to look at the root.
Mm-hmm.
You say, guns in the black community. Where are we getting these guns from?
Mm-hmm.
Is somebody supplying these guns? Oh, so there's a hidden hand. There's a hidden hand.
Mm-hmm.
They want to say, oh, but it's black on black crime. Well, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to promote black on black love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I told you last time, my fiance had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that it was my personal responsibility as a poet to use my bully pulpit to champion the cause of the black woman.
Okay.
So, as a matter of fact, my next project, my next big project, and I don't share it with everybody, but my next big project is to do a pilot, and it's going to be called The Poet, just simply The Poet.
Okay.
And we're going to have a sharp black poet in front of the camera executing these powerful speeches with flanked to his left and to his right two beautiful Nubian queens.
All right.
And she's going to come out and introduce me.
Okay. All right.
But see, this is part of my concept. This is what I want to do. But why do I want to do it? My girlfriend, my fiance, she was not only black, she was blue black.
Okay.
Blue black. Beautiful. Beautiful kinky hair. I love that kinky hair. Beautiful personality. Beautiful spirit. And I felt compelled, like I do with poetry. Like I told you, I don't write poetry because I like writing poetry. I do it because I'm compelled.
Oh, God, I get it.
And I use the analogy that it's like when you're about to vomit, the involuntary muscles take over
Mm-hmm.
and you vomit. So the same way I write my poetry, I feel compelled, I feel moved. But I don't write just about black people. See, people have to understand this. I talk about black America and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
We have to recognize this, that if you truly love God, then you're a lover of justice.
Yes.
Be it black, white, red, yellow, whatever color you are. You have to, if I'm going to be a champion of the poor, how can I call myself a champion of the poor if I'm not connected to the people that I serve? I like to say that I feel that I'm connected. I'm in touch with the hurt of the poor.
Okay.
I like to say, like Jesus, I can be touched by the feelings of their infirmities.
All right.
So from this crucible of affliction, there emerges a vessel fit for the Maker's purpose,
Okay.
a poet. But I like to also say, there's a young man at the printing place that I go to. They do all my printing.
Okay.
They call it Global Print Masters. And this young guy named Emmanuel, I'll always walk in there and say, "How you doing, Emmanuel? God is with us." He smiles. And then he heard my story while we were in his place of business, and he said, "Why do you say that you suffered from depression?" I said, "Because I suffer from depression." He said, "But why do you say that?" "Because Jesus came so that we wouldn't have to suffer." And then I looked back and I thought, and I looked at him and I said, "That's me when I was a young Christian." And I understand why you think that way. But being an older man, older than he is, I've come to live a little bit of life, and I understand and I see things a little bit differently. I like the saying that they say in the Christian church, if I can help somebody
Yeah.
along the way,
Then.
turn their darkness into day,
Yeah.
then I would have known that my living was not in vain.
Yes.
So I say my living would not have been in vain, but I was using scriptures with him. I was just sizing them up. I didn't want to attack him. I didn't want to do a philosophical debate. Because he called me a politician one time. And anyway, I didn't want to do a philosophical debate or religious debate. I don't do that. So I said to him, I said, there's a script, it's not scripture, but this is that old time religion. They say, must Jesus bear the cross alone and the entire world go free? There's a cross for everyone. There's a cross for you, and there's a cross for me.
All right. Okay. You said that you battled with depression for over 27 years. Do you think that this, and let me just say this as a mental health professional, is that depression is a diagnosed disease, and there are various treatments for whatever kind of depression you may be experiencing. If you are not able to perform your activities of daily living on a continuous basis, then reach out and seek counseling. I know it's a taboo. It used to be a very big taboo in the black community because of some of the real things that used to happen to black people. Even when I started off in the profession. There were real atrocities, real unequal treatment, but there are people who look like you, who that that you can go to. There are psychiatrists, there are therapists that you can go to, and you can talk. You do get talk therapy, or if you need medication, you can get medication, or whatever for whatever your particular symptoms are.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
I think that I battled depression. Like I said, I battled depression 27 years of my life. I remember the circumstances leading up to my discovery that I was actually dealing with a mental illness. I explained how a series of events took place. As a very young man, I believe I was 27 years old. I was in a mega church. I was a deacon. I had responsibility. I was water baptized. My twin brother was singing and praise and worship in front of thousands of people. I was water baptized in front of all these people. But I had a serious altercation with the church leadership that led to my expulsion, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that, and then I say, my wife thought I had left God, so she said, I'm leaving you. So she left. I lose my church, I lose my wife, and then I get fired from my job. So I had three things to happen.
Yeah.
And that was a lot. It happened within 3 months, all in 3 months.
Wow.
And I can remember, and this story may be helpful to somebody who
Yeah.
can identify
Mhm.
with depression. I felt a sense of despair. What it is, it's a trick in the mind. It's a trick of the brain that you have this emotional baggage that you have to deal with. This depression, which is a lack of dopamine in the brain. Sometimes you need medication in order to offset that, and that'll put you back on balance.
Right.
So I recognized that back when I was first experiencing the depression, I remember I left my place of business. It was about 12 o'clock at night. I was working overtime at this engineering firm with engineering technician. And I couldn't help but hear the drums, boom, 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 boom. After everything was happening, I was in the bathroom, and all I could do is look at myself in the mirror. And I was crying, tears, crocodile tears coming down from my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked in the mirror at this face, this distorted face, and I said, Lord, what did I do to deserve this? Because I had lost my wife, lost my church, lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
And this the apex of what was happening. So what I did was I did the unforgivable thing. I left my job without cutting off the computer. I was a computer worker.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't leave your computer. You're supposed to shut it down and make sure everybody knows who's
Mm-hmm.
coming on next on board. But I remember that drive home in my Mercedes going from Virginia back to Washington. The drums, boom, 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 boom. The drums kept on beating. So I knew something clicked in my head and said, it's time to end it. That's it. So I drove slowly all the way from Virginia back to D.C.
Mm-hmm.
I drove by my parents' house, and I got a knife out of the kitchen drawer.
Mm-hmm.
I got the knife out. I took the knife, put it in the car. I drove up to Catholic University, a quiet place, and then I said, I know what I got to do. I wrote a suicide note,
Mm-hmm.
telling God I'm sorry, but I got to check out. I got
Mhm.
to check out now.
Mm-hmm.
So the drum was going boom, 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 boom. So I took the stainless steel knife and I pressed it up against my chest, and I went, ow.
You
I can't
very,
do it.
very weakly like
Yeah.
that.
I can't do it. I can't do it. So I leaned against the horn. It went boom. The horn was going on, blasting boom.
Mhm.
And so a couple of white guys came up from Catholic University, and they looked in and called the police. And the police handcuffed me, put me in the squad car, and they took me to the St. Elizabeth's Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody remember what that is.
It's still in existence.
Okay. The
Yeah.
St. Elizabeth Hospital.
New building, same old
Yeah.
stuff.
And the doctor, I will never forget that night. The doctor had his little flashlight looking into my eyes. Said, Stephen, do you know where you are? I said, no. He said, you're on the psychiatric ward of St. Elizabeth Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
He said, do you know why you're here? I said, No. He said, he looked at me through those horn-rimmed glasses and said, you're losing your mind. So that was the ending of a chapter of my life. But from then, I would recover. And I wrote a song called Recovering the Fall.
Okay.
And I was on a path that I had to recover from all that was taken from me. I said, Lord, if you're God, then I'm your servant. And surely, if you're the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, then I'm your child. And if I'm your servant, if I'm yours, I'm a servant of you, and I'm a servant of your people.
Okay.
So God lifted me up, and I said, education became my soul salvation. I studied Malcolm, I studied Martin, I studied Garvey. I studied all the great minds that came before me. And I was ready to go back to college. And I had my entire college paid for because of what was taken away from me. It took 6 years to finish 4. And by the way, nobody remembers how long it takes for you to finish, just as long as you finish. And at the height of my graduation, 20 years ago, I was honored by the Vice President of the United States.
Okay.
Vice President Al Gore had a town hall meeting on mental health. And he asked if I would speak. And it was televised all over the country.
Okay.
At town hall meetings all over the country. And then he asked me, he said, what can I do for you? You did such an incredible job of speaking. What can I do for you? I said, I was thinking about going to law school. My grades weren't there, but I was still thinking. I said, I was thinking about going to law school. I said, would you write me a letter of recommendation to law school? And he said, sure I will. So the second most powerful man in the world wrote me a letter of recommendation to law school. So I was bouncing back from all that had happened. And now you say, you may ask the question, has your disability caused you to be unfulfilled in your hopes and dreams? But I would say on the contrary. On the contrary. Or like they say in French, au contraire. I said, in spite of my battle with depression, I've been able to accomplish a lot. I'm a Howard University graduate, published author, local television producer, ambassador of poetry for the DC State Committee. I'm a registered member of the Nation of Islam. I'm affiliated with dozens of Christian churches. I speak extensively throughout the Washington metropolitan area. And I've met a lot of powerful and influential people along the way, including Miss Jeanette Pollard, culture, class, and consciousness.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's go into some poetry. I know you have some questions there, but
No problem.
let's go into some poetry.
Okay, let's do some poetry.
Okay.
Okay.
The camera, we've been doing like this. We kind of need to do this too.
Sorry, okay. I want to say this before I do the poetry, that the hallmark, I was going to ask you to ask the question, Stephen, why do you say that there's a lack of good leadership in the black community?
Oh, okay.
Why is there a shortage of good leadership in this country? Why is there a shortage of good leadership in the world? And my response is, because there's pervading darkness in the black community. There's pervading darkness in our country. And there's pervading darkness in the world.
Yeah.
But it was Jesus who said, you are the light of the world. Maybe I'm confused, but I thought he was talking about me. Maybe I'm deluded. Maybe I'm naive, or maybe I'm just a fool. To think and to hurl that somehow, to teach young people that it's our responsibility to change the world. So I have to say that it's our responsibility. If it is to be, it's up to me.
Okay.
The mark or the hallmark of good leadership is for a person to live a life worth emulating.
Yes.
He or she must be committed to live a life that others may emulate. Martin Luther King was the most influential person in my life. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. most influential person in my life.
Okay.
And then would come the Muslim minister, Malcolm X. I was enamored and I was influenced by the powerful speeches of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and later exposed to the fiery messages of that Muslim minister, Malcolm X, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. So I'm going to my first poem,
Okay.
and it's on the same note of what I just said, that the minister Louis Farrakhan, is a good leader. There's a shortage of good leadership, but he's a good leader. He's a good man.
Is this poem copywritten?
Yeah. No,
Oh.
this is mine.
I mean, has it been copyrighted?
Yeah, it's in my book.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's in my
All
book.
right.
Okay, yeah. This poem is entitled, When the Minister is Gone. Oh, I pray for the minister every day, that Almighty Allah would have his way. But when the minister is gone, how will we as a people carry on? Will we cry? Ask Almighty Allah why. And oh, how the entire world would mourn when the minister is gone. Smite the shepherd, scatter the sheep. Or how the MGT and the FOI would bitterly weep. His lifelong mission to change the black man's condition. For when we were blind, deaf, and dumb, at the feet of white America begging for crumbs, when the number one killer was the corner drug dealer. America, white America, you've been warned, but what will you do when the warner is gone? A million men would march, would millions mourn? Will history mark the day that he was born? It comes as no secret, it comes as no surprise. Like Jesus to blind Bartimaeus, he was indeed the one who opened my eyes. And his love for his people, unparalleled and unequal. Yet history will tell of the glory, a powerful story of how as a nation he built us, as soldiers he drilled us, as a speaker he thrilled us. From the cloth of greatness he was torn. No one like Farrakhan. His lifelong mission became his burden. To the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, he was like Moses' Aaron. Many will be missed when they are gone, but none so quite when the minister is gone. Yes, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Thank you.
All right.
I think I'm going to skip to this one here.
Okay.
You were talking about reparations.
Yes.
Reparations?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, this is Black History Month, right?
Yes.
So we're going to talk about reparations.
Okay.
Reparations. What I want for Black America. First of all, I demand reparation for your criminal perpetrations. For some, an apology is nice, but in your case it won't suffice.
Mm-hmm.
Financial restitution is more of a solution to right wrongs, to make amends, to make up for all your collective sins. Slavery, did you think it was for a favor? Not compensated for our labor? Forget your frivolous apologies. We want nothing less than pure equality. Then our nation can be won. When we see justice is done, have you no remorse that the scales of justice have tilt? Can you not see, hear, feel, or deny your collective guilt? The fact that you despise us don't surprise us. We've uncovered the mystery. You stole our collective history. You say that this is your nation, Yet you say it without hesitation. Yet we built it without compensation. In the past, even up until today, you confine us to ghettos and slums. You live real good while we live like bums. Do you know your true identity? You are the aid and abetter of our oppressor. Together you used us, abused us, accused us, confused us, and like a ticking bomb, you're trying to diffuse us. Too many in prison, yet Jesus is risen. I want my people to get off of your drugs, no more thugs. I want my people to get out of your jail, no more hell. Underwear hanging out, what's that about? I demand reparation for your deprivation of self-determination. Like you, I want to get paid, live in the shade, no longer played. I want to be cooler, no longer tricked by the fooler. I want to be an entrepreneur, no longer psyched. Want to be like Mike, want to be like King and have a dream. I want to break the cycle of poverty. I want true sovereignty for me, myself, my son and my daughter, my brothers and sisters across the water, the souls of my ancestors past. I want to say finally, finally, we're free at last.
Amen. Amen. You know, as you were reciting and I was listening to the words, what was coming back in my mind was how the things that have played out in the last few days about Jussie Mollett, the guy from Empire, and some of the revelations that have come out, the allegations that he paid those two guys to stage this hoax and all of his stuff. And if those allegations are true, it is wrong. However, it took precedence over this white man who stored up all these weapons and who is, I believe, on active duty. I believe he's on active duty.
Right.
Who has stored up all these weapons and had a hit list of he's going to kill up all these people. Something like that has taken precedence. And then I saw on Facebook where somebody reminded us there was a young white guy in 2016 who had created this hoax over in regards to the Olympics, and how he had created this hoax, and he just got a little slap on the wrist and all this. But they're ready to crucify Mollett, which
And even in Virginia, the African American man.
Yes.
What's his name?
Fairfax. The lieutenant governor.
Yes.
The lieutenant governor, Fairfax, for the allegations. And part of me says, yes, if you did this is wrong. However, compared to what white folks have done, you know, it's a drop in the bucket. But also, my thing is this. You ought to know, as a black person in the world, that what you do is going to be amplified, magnified, and you're going to be crucified as a result of it.
Yes.
So you can't do what they do and think you're not going to get magnified, amplified, and crucified.
Can I share something?
Sure.
I'm going to share a poem, and this poem is entitled, Where is the Love?
Okay.
Among the many disservices white America has perpetrated against black Americans, I feel that racism is the greatest roots. Our forefathers were not given the God-given right to be treated as human beings. They were treated with unspeakable horrors and indignities. Yes, a long, long history and chain of abuses. Now we wake up in a world coexisting, the sons of slaves and the sons of slave owners. It's no surprise that such a societal monstrosity will be birthed from the two. This relationship is not a new relationship, but is a mere extension of the relationship that existed since the inception of our nation. Our people, deprived of all the niceties that they said that every U.S. citizen would fall there. We're in a relationship, a dysfunctional relationship. We, the current deputies of civil rights, say that we have had enough. We have reached a boiling point. We have reached a point of no return. white America has had the luxury of treating us wrong all too long. With the white, narcissistic, small-minded Neanderthal in the Oval Office, a man coddled, shielded, and protected from the ramifications due a tyrannical dictator, a man who crosses the line of sense and sensibility over and over again. Jesus used analogies to break down the lofty complexities of the kingdom of heaven so that the most carnal man could understand. Monks, gurus, teachers, scholars, and thinkers use analogies wherein a relationship, a strained relationship, bound and bordered from sea to shining sea. White America and black America are strange bedfellows, in bed but not in love. We're in bed with a drunkard, with America, white America, with an intoxicated and drunk with power. We're in bed with a brawler, with America, white America, with an incessant need to build weapons of war. We're in bed with the liar, with America, white America, never holding true to the words of love it professes, in bed but not in love. White America, where is your love for the black man? We cut the underbrush to build this civilization. We pick the cotton while you enjoy a pleasant southern way of life. Yes, you had it made. While we work, you sat on the porch drinking mint julep and sipping on sweet lemonade. We proved our loyalty, for we fought, bled, and died in all your wars. The American Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Gulf War, the Iraqi War, only to come home to be treated like second-class citizens in a white supremacist society. White supremacy is losing its steam, is dying on the vine. We as blacks, in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, have attained and even surpassed our white counterparts, even obtaining the most coveted position by black American-born Barack Hussein Obama, the 44th President of the United States. We're in a relationship. This relationship, like any abusive relationship, must be annulled. Like slavery, it must be abolished. Racism is the greatest ruse, the greatest okie doke. All along, the good life was the goal. Always the goal. So in exchange of a white heaven, they give us hell on earth.
Oh!
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And you're a minister, you know that.
Yes, that's powerful. That's powerful. You said that you with the number of young black men. Well, what has happened? Have you been led to, now that there are just one or two or three police officers after that, the blue gang, I call the police the blue gang, after they have, one or two of them maybe have been convicted for murdering,
right,
for murdering our people. Have you contemplated that and written any poetry related to any of the young people or even the older people who have been murdered by the police?
Yes.
Okay.
Between your walls, we black folks have been hemmed. Within a cruel, corrupt, criminal, white police system, we're witnessing an all-out assault against black people. America, white America, you have killed our young. You have killed our old. You have killed those in between. You have killed countless of unarmed black folk in 2019. What do we as righteous men say when men refuse to see the errors of their way? I know the situation seemed bleak. I know the situation seemed dire. But why the hell do we seem to keep putting out fires? Black people, hoping your eyes stop being surprised. I know in your hearts for justice you yearn, but perhaps we've reached the point of no return. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, justice too long delayed is justice denied. So no, we are not satisfied. Like military men, their secret mission has already been planned and discussed. So what do they have in store for us? Slavery, civil war, segregation, subjugation, discrimination, failed integration, police brutality, gentrification, extermination. This ongoing feud with the police, this ongoing feud has broken down to a battle with they have guns and we do not. But it's plain to see when you connect the dots.
You mentioned earlier that there were guns in the community, in the black community, and perhaps the purpose of these illegal guns being infiltrated, dumped in the community was for the purpose of us killing each other.
Right.
When I proposed that our ancestors use guns to defend themselves, history is very clear, particularly in right after slavery, where black folks got hold of guns, and particularly during the civil rights movement, where
in the Black Panther Party,
and well, even before the Black Panther Party, there are books that are written. And there's a book that I have, and there's an old black woman sitting on the porch with in a rocking chair. She has a shotgun, and the title of the book says "We Shoot Back."
That's right.
Yeah. So there were, and I can remember my own grandfather telling stories about how their whole family was not bothered in Mississippi because the white folks knew he will shoot back and kill.
Yes, yes.
So I am, and so I believe that this push to get guns out of the black community, it's a double-edged sword, because if you have a people, one of the reasons why we Rosewood happened. Tulsa, maybe they had guns, but they were bombed too. So Rosewood and all these massacres that happened where we had our own, but white folks got jealous and came in and destroyed it. If you had some weapons, people would think once or twice, or maybe even 3 times about coming up there storming you.
That's right.
So
protecting that community.
Yes.
That's why I said I was drawn to the Nation of Islam, because during the height of the crack epidemic, I didn't see my church stepping up to the plate to do something about what's happening outside the 4 walls of the church. And like I said, I saw how the black Muslims were snatching rifles and guns out the hands of dangerous drug dealers. I said, that's my type of religion.
Well, if people really follow, and it's not just comparing Christianity with Islam, but it's my belief, if you believe in something, then that should make you unafraid.
Yes.
Instead of being a scaredy cat.
That's right.
I can stand up in your face and tell you are racist and you blah 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 blah. And when we went out there and well, I didn't do the march and I was sitting with my signs, but when we were protesting in front of some of these businesses and because
I remember that.
Yeah. Well, we did it a few weeks ago. But you cannot be afraid if you believe in justice. You cannot.
You cannot be a scared to death Negro.
Yes.
You can't be a scared to death Negro.
If you're scared, you can't win.
It's just one guy said, if you're scared, say you're scared. If you're scared, say you're scared. But we can't. It's time for us to. We've got to stop being afraid of ourselves. We've got to stop being afraid of ourselves. I was thinking about moving to Baltimore. I said, why are you going to move to Baltimore? I said, because a physician goes to where the sick people are. I said, so I wouldn't mind going there. I would had the privilege to move into a neighborhood a couple of years ago, and it was drug infested. And when I moved in, the day after I moved in, it was riddled with bullets at the front door. And the young man was shot in the leg. Fortunately, he wasn't killed. And I remember standing out there with my body shirt on, and the sirens going off in the street, and the tape being put up, and the white owner of the facility, the housing complex, said to me, I said, this is totally unacceptable. I said, our children can't play. Our babies have nowhere to go. You call yourselves Christians? You call yourself Muslims? It's time to step up. You've got to step up. If you say you believe in God, make a stand. Step up. Step up to the plate. We've got, as men, we've got to protect our women, our babies, and our children. That's part of our responsibility. And I cleaned up that neighborhood. And that one little spot that I had, and then they said, my Nation of Islam brother told me, get out of there now, because they're coming after you. And he said they want that building, and they will do anything to continue the drug marketing there. So what eventually happened, of course, was happening after the Nation of Islam comes in and cleans it up, then they go back in and they gentrify it, and we're still out of there.
Yeah. Give us one more poem. We have just a few more minutes.
Oh, okay, let's see. I'll do one more poem. Let's do, how much time do we have?
We have about 4 more minutes.
Okay. One more. Let's see. Okay, this is for Black History Month.
Okay.
For those who don't know their history.
Okay.
Oh, America, white America. You came from a faraway land, toting the Bible in your hand. You called yourselves Christians, but that was insane. All of Christ's teachings seem to go down the drain. Oh, America, white America, if the truth be told, you maligned, massacred, murdered the Native American for their gold. You tried to enslave them, but for you they were too weak. So you turned to us, so to speak. You turned to us because we were more healthy, to do your bidding to make you wealthy. Oh, America, white America, how did the descendants of one of the greatest civilizations ever told end up enslaved for gold? Should we complain? Should we bicker? Kings and queens reduced to cotton pickers? Oh, America, white America, have you lost your stripes, your spots, your lies, or has a new America rise? Slavery, civil war, segregation, subjugation, gentrification. Now that we've had a black president, have you now repent? The consensus is out that the black man is lazy. Yet we built this country. Are you crazy? We did it at a time. Didn't get paid a dime, and you think the black man has a chip on his shoulder? I say it's more like a boulder. Oh, America, white America, it's no mystery how we should respond to history. Hatred is never the solution. Hatred only increases the pollution. It'll take moral outrage to turn the page of apathy and indifference. When a young black man is gunned down in the streets and his heart no longer beats, how moral are you and I if we just keep letting them down? Our moral compass has never been to make sure this never happens over and over and over again. But oh, back to you, Uncle Sam, you dirty cook. Did you think I'll let you off the hook? I know there will be drama. We can forgive, but we can't forget. We can forgive, but we can't forget. Because we believe in God, we believe in karma. But we want justice today and not promised it tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, those are the need for moral indignation in the 20th. That's absolutely correct. Is it in this book?
Yes.
Okay. Once again, my guest is Oropathy Stephen W. Silver, formerly known as the American Griot. This is his book, and is chock full of more poetry like you've heard this evening.
And can I say something? Like
Sure.
Also on YouTube, it's called The Urban Diary, Prominent Speeches of American Griot. There's a whole collection, a whole host of poems that I've written. It's about 3.5 hours,
Okay.
but you can watch a little bit at a time,
Okay.
digest it little by little. But the audience can go to Stephen Silver, The Urban Diary, and look up all 6 volumes, and that's a gift to the audience.
All right. Okay. Well, this has been, as we have wound up Black History Month, the designated month, we must remember that we must keep alive and remember and celebrate and support blackness, black history, 365, 24/7. Remember those young brothers, the Billingsley brothers out of Atlanta at yummybrothers.com. Go to their website and purchase some of their products. I'm Jeanette Pollard, the host of Culture, Class, and Consciousness. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Stephen,
Thank you, Ms. Pollard.
for being my guest this evening. You are always a delight and have thought-provoking information to share with the viewing audience. We'll see you next week. Good night.